It's a mindset. And the most important mindset I believe marketing people need to have is not the most obvious one, which is being humble. I think really that if you're humble and curious and put some effort, you will learn. And if you learn, you grow.
This is Ibrahim Khan. I'm the Global Vice President for Fanta at the Coca-Cola Company. Welcome to the second edition of Wanta Sips. This is our podcast, an attempt at giving you a sneak peek behind the scenes into some of the greatest marketing brands, minds, and campaigns. Today's episode is called Behind the Screams, because today we will focus on marketing experiences and unpacking Fanta's latest partnership with Warner on Beetlejuice. I have two esteemed guests. One will co-host with me, but first introducing to you all Javier Meza, who's our President of Marketing for Coca-Cola in Europe. Doesn't need any introductions. He's been in the company. He's seen a lot. He's done a lot. And I have with me Amelia, who's the Chief Strategy Officer for OpenX in Europe and will be co-hosting today's session with me. So let's start with the big opening, Javier, with you. As I said, we grew up in the company looking at your great work. You've done a lot. You've seen a lot. If you can tell us a little bit about your journey and your career, we could start with that.
Yeah, thank you, Ibrahim, and good to see you, Amelia. Thank you for the invitation, first of all, and thank you for all the people, colleagues that are going to be listening to us today. And you're right. I would say I am one of those very young veterans of the Coca-Cola Company, and I'm going to emphasize that, very young, and I can explain why I mean that. Almost 27 years working for Coke, but across, around the globe, I never had a job more than 2-3 years in the same country. Forget about changing jobs. I've been changing country every 2-3 years. And I think that's one of the reasons that I am still so excited about the brands we have, the business we have, how we connect with people, with customers, with bottlers. Because I've seen that from different parts of the world. And yes, certain things are similar, but there's so many things that are not. So for me, this opportunity to see the world through the eyes of the Coca-Cola system and keep learning, is what keeps me energized and keeps me young. I believe that the moment you stop learning, you age. Since I'm still learning and keep learning, I'm still young.
That's fantastic. You stole my next question because I was going to ask you, how do you keep going?
Yeah, and it is that I would say, if I need to organize the answer to that, is three things. Ibrahim, one is I really believe in what we do. Mm-hmm. What we do, this idea of refreshing the world and make a difference, putting smiles on people, including, again, consumer, retailer, customers, bottlers, stakeholders, partners. The second thing is it's a true global business. Mm-hmm. There's so many things to see and learn from. I've had the privilege and opportunity to work in Asia, in global roles, Latin America, now in Europe. And it's amazing how, if you're curious enough, you can learn every day from colleagues, from bottlers, from competitors, from retailers. So learning is never ending, which from someone working in marketing, it's important because marketing has evolved a lot in those 27 years I've been doing this. The third part of the answer is it's a privilege to work with so many talented people around the globe. You have a global role now, and you know that wherever you go, there is talent. And that's something that sometimes we take for granted. But I've met a lot of people that left Coca-Cola or left Coca-Cola and came back. And when you ask them, what is the one thing you miss? They say the level of the talent that the Coca-Cola Company has.
Yeah, 100%, Javier. And that curiosity, we've watched you in action, and I know exactly what you mean. Amelia, you want to tell us a little bit about your journey and yourself?
Of course. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for asking me to be a co-host today. It's an absolute pleasure. So my name is Amelia Torode. Back in the last century, not 27 years ago, but quite a long time ago, I started my career at WPP as a graduate trainee. So I was a graduate trainee in the UK, and then I spent the best part of my 20s working for WPP in the US. And I am a boomerang. I'm one of those people who comes back. So I recently came back to WPP And the thing that really attracted me was, well, obviously the Coca-Cola Company, the chance to work on some of the most loved and some of the most famous brands in the world. But I guess what I also found really interesting from an organizational perspective is what TCCC and WPP are trying to do together. And your point, Javier, is completely well made, which is marketing looks very different when you started, when we all started. But actually, it almost struck me that the agency structures hadn't necessarily caught up with the world around us. So what I love about what we're trying to do with OpenX is it's a reimagining of organizational structures and talent to better fit the world that we're in. So I'm super excited and can't wait to jump into Fanta and Beetlejuice.
You said that right. We're not allowed to say Beetlejuice too.
Beetlejuice.
So, Javier, you mentioned a career spanning 27 years. Definitely things were very different from when you started and what you're seeing today. You mentioned the rapidly changing context and, the pace of change only increases. How do you stay up to date? Maybe you could share a little bit of your tips and tricks or your strategies in terms of how you stay up to date, how you stay connected with consumers, and with what's the latest in marketing.
Yeah, very good question. It's a mindset. And the most important mindset I believe marketing people need to have is not the most obvious one, which is being humble. I think really that if you're humble and curious and put some effort, you will learn. And if you learn, you grow. So if I need to summarize my journey of growing has been be humble, be curious, put some effort to go after new information, new experiences, new contacts. That is going to allow you to learn. And if you learn, you grow. And that really, I really mean about going after new information, new experiences. From recently, I finished a 1-year digital program in Kellogg.
Wow.
And I remember being in those classes with my colleagues in Kellogg. 50% of them were IT people.
Really?
And I was the marketing person, yeah. And I was trying to force myself to think like an IT person, very interestingly. So put yourself out of the comfort zone, be curious, and that's going to allow you to capture learning. And by the way, we know that marketing is about connecting dots, right? Good marketeers, they can't connect dots. If you don't collect dots, you will not be able to connect different dots. So if you only if you keep talking just to people in the Coca-Cola system, of people in marketing of Coca-Cola, the dots you're going to be collecting are going to be the same. Oh. This was something, for example, Ibrahim, I did more consciously after COVID. I remember the early days of 2020. I was in the global role leading Coke Fanta brand shops. And I remember the early discussions with Manolo, James, John about, this is something we never faced in our lifetime. Right. And I was saying, I need to start talking to people outside the Coca-Cola system to understand how they are dealing with this crisis. Right. How they are doing marketing in this new context. And I realized that there's so many things that we can learn and bring to make our marketing and our way of working even better. Curiosity and humbleness. That's the recipe.
That's phenomenal, Javier. And, most people, Javier, with your position and experience would rather go on stage and teach other people. And you just went back and became a student for 1 year. What was that feeling? How do you go back to being a student and getting taught marketing after so much experience?
I think, maybe the problem I have is that I am in denial about aging. I don't want to age. So I keep inventing things to feel young and to feel that, I can still talk to my kids. I have 3 kids. They are 23, 22, 19. Okay. and I want to be a cool dad. I want to be the one that... In fact, this is a true story. 2022, end of 2022, I went to Ecuador and I was doing a road trip with my son and my 2 parents, my mom and my dad. The 4 of us took the car and went on the road for 10 days. It was an amazing experience, right? My kid was not born in Ecuador. He doesn't know Ecuador. For my parents, it was going back to cities they had visited 40 years ago. So it was amazing experience. Wow. And in the middle of that trip, one night, going to sleep, my kid says, "Hey, Dad, are you using ChatGPT?" And I look at him and say, "What are you talking about?" Like he said, "Oh my God, you need to see this." So he opens his iPhone and that in front of me, he did a Sprite ad using ChatGPT. That was like 3-4 months before it became like wow, right? So, and I keep remembering that story to say, we need to talk to young people.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing.
Absolutely. 100%, Javier. So that was 3 generations on one road trip, and you learned ChatGPT. What about yourself? How do you try to stay up to date?
So I love the point you make, Javier, about connecting the dots, but to connect the dots, you first need to collect them.
I love that.
I think it's great, and I will steal that with pride. I'll attribute it back to you. So I often talk about culture giving you clues, but you have to be listening and you have to be looking. And I think sometimes all our roles can be so intense and can, as we work so hard. We've got families. It can be quite overwhelming. And I think it's really important. Your point that you made is so well made about just having your cultural antennae up. And there's an amazing, I guess he's a role model, but he's a documentary photographer, US. He's called Walker Evans. And he's probably one of the world's first reportage and documentary photographers. So he was photographing in the 1930s in the US, and he's wonderful. He's called Walker Evans, and what I love about him is that he is one of those people that just is constantly, or was constantly, connected into culture and society. So he took some of the first pictures of the Dust Bowl during the Great Depression of real people. And he did this wonderful thing. And this is one of my stories that I just love. He did a collection of photographs in the 1920s, 1930s on the subway in New York. And he built and hacked a camera. So he put a camera on his lap, and he basically created a little lead that was hidden up his sleeve and a little button so he could take pictures, but people didn't realize. And he sat with this camera on his lap, but the people around him didn't realize that actually he was there and he was watching and taking these incredible pictures. And I think what I love about people like Walker Evans and documentary filmmakers and reportage is that they're constantly looking. And he had this wonderful quote where he talks about, and I'm going to get it wrong, but I think it's listen, pry, eavesdrop. Die knowing something, you're not here long. And I love that sense of always listening, always prying, always eavesdropping, because you can always listen to conversations, whether you're in a cafe or on a train or to your kids and their friends. But, culture is constantly giving you clues, but you have to be listening. So you have to be collecting the dots. So I completely adhere to the curiosity and the humbleness. I
suspect if he did that today, he would probably get in a lot of trouble for that.
Yes, maybe. But then there's also wonderful people like Nora Ephron, who is this, amazing writer who wrote When Harry Met Sally and all sorts of wonderful things. But she very famously used to sit in kind of coffee shops in New York, and she had a quote where she said, everything is copy. Like everything is copy. So she would just sit there with her notebook and just listen to what people were saying. Brilliant. And, that was kind of 50 years ago, 60 years ago. But I think that's the same mentality that all of us as marketeers need to have about how we listen and then how we connect those dots.
Well, the theme is clear. I think, humility, curiosity, and learning.
I think that's right.
I think that's what Javier is saying as well. And so we talked a little bit about, obviously, your backgrounds, how you stay up to date. What are some of the biggest changes you've seen over this time? Let's say, Javier, imagine you're back and you're a brand manager, just starting out. What was a day like back then versus what is a day like right now? What are the biggest changes we've seen?
And I think this is the most important questions we need to keep asking ourselves as marketing people again and again. And let me ask you in two ways, right? Let me start with a very concrete thing. When I started working in marketing for Coke, I was the Sprite brand manager in Ecuador. Mm-hmm. Early days of internet, of course, not smartphones, of course, not Wi-Fi, Open TV. Life was easy because all you need to do is, if you wanted to launch a brand, is make sure that your bottle achieves 80% coverage in the traditional trade, and you get 80% reach with frequency 4 on Open TV.
That's it.
And go for it. So imagine how much has changed. But let me go to the more formal answer to this, because I've been thinking a lot about this,
Right.
what has changed. And I think, Ibrahim, the first thing we need to answer when we speak about the marketing transformation that we are all working on and making a lot of progress is what is not changing.
Right.
Is as important as what is changing.
I love that.
And because of that, and I've been thinking a lot and reflecting, and I came up with this way of talking about this, which is the why, what, and how.
Mm-hmm.
I say why of marketing, right? Why organizations need marketing,
Right.
and I really see marketing as the engine that allows the value exchange between consumers and the organization.
Right.
At the end of the day, we need to be able to understand consumers, to create solutions that add value to consumers, so we bring value to the system, the company.
Right.
That's our job. And that has not changed and will not change. That's the role of marketing.
Right.
The why marketing will not change. The what of marketing, for us in Coca-Cola, has evolved but has not changed too much. We do believe that brands, at the end of the day, are about benefits and values.
Right.
We believe in that. We believe that brands deliver benefits, which, by the way, are emotional benefits and functional benefits, but mostly emotional benefits. And our brands, they stand for values that drive identification to people.
Right.
That has not changed a lot. We have been talking about this for a lot. Now, how we create that value for consumers? Yeah, through occasions, innovation, passion points, and recently more and more sustainability.
Right.
Is an important part of what we do. What is really changing is the how.
Is the how.
Right? That keeps evolving, and it's a moving target. I would argue that, then again, we need to remain humble. If we believe that we can write now a book on this is the how of marketing, it's going to be obsolete in 6 months.
Yes.
I remember, Ibrahim, when I was in Singapore.
Yeah.
One afternoon, Pratik came to talk to me and said, "Hey, are you free tomorrow?" Let me check. No, I'm not free. Why? Oh, there's these guys from China coming to talk to us. They want to share a platform with us. So, okay, no, I cannot make it. You meet them, you tell me later. So 1 week later, I asked him, hey, how was the meeting with these guys? That was 2019, 5 years ago. I'm not talking 20 years ago. 2019. He said, yeah, they have something interesting. It's called TikTok. I don't know. So for me, when I think about the how we do marketing, I keep thinking that today, August 27, 2024, somewhere in Tel Aviv or Silicon Valley or Bangalore or Singapore, someone is inventing the new TikTok.
Right.
So we need to remain curious and humble to say we need to be willing to change how we do marketing. Now, what we have clarity now is that it's about experience-based marketing. We really believe that given the changes that are happening in technology, we have now the opportunity to create meaningful experiences that carry benefits and values of the brand to a lot of people with a sense of customization, personalization.
Right.
So what has changed is from broadcasting mass scale to more personalized, with a scale, experience-based marketing.
Right. That's phenomenal, Javier. Like, what has not changed? The fundamentals have not changed, why we do marketing, what we're actually saying, and how we're creating value has, and what the how has changed tremendously. I love the TikTok example because who would have thought, right? Any builds on that?
No,
Amelia?
It's funny. It just makes me think, Javier, that technology changes, but actually people stay the same. And actually we're a people business. We're in the business of people and connections, and, things have got smarter and, everything's accelerated, but fundamentally human nature remains the same.
Yeah. Technology changes and people
stay
don't.
the same. Yeah.
Arguable. Okay. We'll take that. Javier, you spoke about experiences. Maybe share a couple of the biggest ones you've led, in this role or previous roles. What has been the most amazing experience you think we've been able to give consumers recently?
So I think the Beetlejuice is one of but it's coming. We will speak more about that.
Yeah.
For me, the best ones are the ones that are orchestrated. When we manage to combine a product experience with a life experience, with a retail shopper experience, all of that connected with a digital experience that amplifies, that's when we really make a huge impact. The second thing is, I believe that our experiences are more impactful when we connect sometimes things that are not obvious. Once I really liked last year the global Christmas campaign, this idea of the world needs more Santas, and started with this amazing live experience in Rovaniemi, where they claim to be the official hometown of Santa. I met Santa. He exists.
Oh, really?
I mean, it's amazing. And it was so impressive because he was such a kind human being, the person that does the Santa in the movie. I saw him in the backstage. He was of course the main character in that play, but there was a Christmas carol singing before him. There were people singing. He was waiting for them to come out of stage in the backstage to applaud to them.
Wow.
Nobody looking at that, just me. I was taping and saying, I cannot believe this guy. Why he's doing that? No cameras, because he's a good human being.
Yeah.
So I really believe in this idea of life experiences that can drive emotions.
Right.
And Christmas one, I think, was one of the best ones.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. If we shift gears a little bit, we talked about experiences. Javier, you nodded to what we're trying to do with Fanta and the partnership with Warner and Beetlejuice. Earlier this year, we launched our new platform. Well, I say new, but it's our old platform. Wanta Fanta was, there about 20 years ago, fairly big part of cultural.
It makes me laugh so much, Javi. I was saying to Ibrahim that so back at the end of, I think I moved to New York in 1999. I worked for Ogilvy. And my roommate, we lived in this terrible, grotty apartment in Hell's Kitchen, which at time, now is super trendy and very shishi. At the time, it really wasn't super trendy and it definitely wasn't very shishi. And my roommate was the planner on Fanta. So Kath would come back from her day at Worldwide Plaza. We'd walk in together and we'd come home and she'd tell me all about this idea they had called the Fantanas. And she came back and she had pictures and we would look at the kind of the casting pictures and the CVs. And I messaged her. I'm like, Kath, you're not going to believe this. The Fantanas are back. And honestly, the excitement. So it was super funny to kind of be there for the Fantanas kind of version 1.0 and to see the spirit of that coming back, and the song, which has definitely been in my head for a very long time. It's funny how, things change, but then they stay the same or they come back around if you wait for long enough.
It's a very small world, huh? The other day, somebody shared a Bumble profile with me of this guy, and his caption was, "My personal hell, the Wanta Fanta song." So I was like, we're doing something right if people are putting it on their Bumble profile.
It's in culture.
But, so now we're doing probably what is our second big initiative in let's call it the revival of this big iconic brand, which is creating a global moment out of Halloween in partnership with Warner and in partnership with Beetlejuice. Javier, your team led this work for the entire enterprise. My first question on this, I guess, is, I'm obviously from a part of the world where Halloween isn't really a big festive. I've always seen it as a big part of American culture, but not much outside that. And so is that really the case? Like, if we're trying to build Halloween as a big global moment, does it really go beyond the U.S.?
So the short answer is yes. And the long answer is culture evolve, culture nurture, cultural mix, and we need to understand that we humans are super globalized.
Yeah.
We consume culture from different parts of the world. So you can see that, maybe 20 years ago, Halloween was not that present or relevant outside the US. But today in Latin America, in Europe, we see really Halloween as far as in Japan, Korea, South Korea. And it's really, I would say the only thing that may be more globalized than Halloween is Christmas, maybe. Yeah. and even Christmas has some biases there by geography. But the other thing is that when you think about the younger generations, they really embrace Halloween. So for a brand like Fanta that is recruiting the next generation of fans, this is the right thing to do. And it's a big business opportunity. I was reviewing some numbers that from a commercial size is almost 10 billion.
Wow.
The size of the Halloween business opportunity. Of course, not only in beverages, but part of that is beverages. And has to do all with the Fanta brand. That is about being playful and mischievous and really encouraging teens to do what they want, not what they need. You might say you don't need Halloween in your life. Fair, but I want Halloween in my life.
Everyone does. I'm in Atlanta right now, and when we launched and announced the Beetlejuice campaign 2 weeks ago, all my friends started messaging me saying, it's summer, man. What are you talking about Halloween? I'm like, I invite you to go to any store in Atlanta right now, and you will start seeing the Halloween displays.
Well, it's
fun.
I mean, so Javier, you're completely right. We did a lot of work, especially around kind of the generational love for Halloween in Europe. And I think some of the stats that we pulled out, 4 out of 5 Gen Z across Europe said that it was the festival, the kind of the party that they most looked forward to. So they looked forward to it more than Christmas, more than Easter, more than Carnival. Like Halloween was the thing. We spent time talking with the team at TikTok and Snapchat. And I guess one of the things that we found really interesting was they talked to us about the fact that Halloween is it's a super visual experience. The whole thing is visual, from the dressing up or the food you're creating or the house that you're decorating, or the whole thing is visual. So it lives so naturally on those shared platforms. So it's sort of super visual. So 4 out of 5 Gen Z across Europe said it was their favourite festival. And your point about commercial, we dug into some of the commercial data for the UK. In 2023, £1 billion was spent on Halloween, and 10 years before, it was 230 million. So in the space of 10 years, it's absolutely skyrocketed, and it's so obvious that the direction that it's moving
crazy.
into
as well. And to Javier's point, I mean, that's the globalization we're seeing.
Well, absolutely. But again, so Javier, my kids are a bit younger than yours, 13 and 15, but they feel so global. The slang they use, the references they use, and it's really interesting. I think that the cultural fluidity of Gen Z comes to life, I think, actually. And Halloween is probably the best example of that, actually.
Well, fingers crossed. Let's hope it goes well.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were discussing earlier, Amelia, and you had a couple of questions for Javier and myself.
Yeah, I did. So I was really interested in Beetlejuice. So I remember the first one.
You said it right.
I said it right. Not 3 times, because otherwise he's going to come in.
You've got to be careful.
He hasn't signed into Spotify, so we can't say it 3 times. But I'd love to just find out a little bit more about how the partnership actually happened, how it came about.
Sure. So, to Javier's point, we're trying to revive Fanta as bring it back to its global scale and iconicity. And one of the things we were looking for, Amelia, was a global cultural moment that we could leverage. Halloween, as you said, really pops out when you look at Gen Z and teens today and what they look forward to. So, the first decision was really Halloween, and then trying to find an asset or a partner that could help us achieve that global scale. Beetlejuice was really opportunistic at the time. Someone said there's a new Beetlejuice movie coming out, and we have a great relationship with Warner. Javier's team is phenomenal because we didn't have a lot of time. Our lead times and our planning times typically are a couple of years. We had like 8 or 9 months maybe.
Wow.
Javier, I don't know if you know this, but the first time I suggested to your team we should do this, they jumped on it. They ran with it. 1 month later, we had the beginnings of a partnership. And, I think the rest is really history. We never looked back. So it's a phenomenal property. So far, we've seen amazing response. But that's really how it came about. It wasn't some grand design, to begin with.
And in terms of some of the kind of the key... So Javier talked about sort of actions, not ads, or, experiences. Can you help share with listeners some of the main experience points in the campaign?
Yeah, sure. Javier, you want to take that?
Yes, I can share that. And before I forget, just, at the risk of being unfair with so many people that work on this, but to your point about putting the right talent to jump in and lead with not only expertise, knowledge, but belief.
Yes.
No, I think Danae Blanco in the European team, kudos to her. She has been amazing ambassador and believer since day one, and really pushing us to go beyond our own limitations and land a super strong program that has, as I explained before, is an orchestration of experiences. It starts with the product experience, and it's not only that we did limited edition packaging design with different flavors of Fanta and all the relevant cast of the movie, but also including limited editions in terms of products. So we have an product innovation that is to surprise consumers. And then again, you may say, hey, do people need a new flavor of Fanta? I don't know, but I know they want a new flavor of Fanta. So why not? Right?
Well said, Javier. Well said.
Yeah, and that connects with live experience. So we are recreating the iconic Afterlife train and offering a live experience to consumers, also to influencers, inviting them to go there and create content and amplify the idea. But we will have also a digital twin of that. So we achieve scale. This idea then product experience, live experience, digital experience, and of course a lot of shop floor, point of sale, and e-commerce experiences to connect all of these. As I said before, I think that the strength of the program is when you can deliver all of this to consumers and not one or the other. So it's not like a menu of things we want to do. It's more really an ecosystem of experiences that involve consumers.
Yeah. And can I point out, Javier, to our earlier conversation, not once did he say 60% reach at 4+.
No.
Not once. Right? Right, Javier? Like you described everything from product to digital to live to retail, but not once did we say 60% reach at 4+ frequency. And that, I think, Javier, was what you were earlier saying is, I mean, it isn't even on the list, Amelia. Right?
Well, it's funny, isn't it, that when you do any of these projects, I remember writing up on a Post-it note and giving it to some creative teams, and we just wrote on it, if it looks like an ad, it's not going to fly. And I sort of stuck it by their desks, and I just said, that's the thing. If it looks like an ad, it's not going to fly. And I think that's the thing that's really striking me when I look at all the Fanta work, and especially the Beetlejuice work. It doesn't feel like an ad. It feels like something different.
It feels like more authentic.
Yeah, a connected series of experiences.
I mean, even 10 years ago, this would have started with a storyboard, right?
Yes, absolutely.
It would have started with here's my film, and then we would have built from there. And I don't think Javier, with Danae, you mentioned phenomenal leader there, but I don't think we've even discussed it once,
Can I ask a question about the product?
I'll come back to the product in 1 second, but just to complement this, because at the end of the day, stories are still relevant.
Right.
It's not that we don't believe in the power of stories. And the stories are relevant because they allow us to communicate these emotions and values, right? That's what we humans love, stories. I think the magic of experiences is that we create immersive stories for people. That they can participate, they can be part of the story, they can shape the story. That's what's the magic of this, and why we evolved from storytelling to this more invitational story doing, in a sense, right? Having people living experiences with us. Yes, product. You can ask me.
What does it taste like? So I'm in London and it hasn't hit the shops yet, and I'm dying to find out what it tastes like.
Delicious, refreshing, vibrant, unexpected, bold. It will put smile in your face.
Okay.
And I really don't want to describe the actual ingredients unless Ibrahim asks me to, but I would say...
That's fine.
Yeah, go and find out.
Yeah,
okay.
you got to look for it. I mean, it's limited edition and it's scarce, and that's what teens like. If you look at the social buzz we're seeing online, Amelia, everyone's looking for it.
I love
because
that.
it's sold out.
I love that.
I saw prices like 20 euros for a can. I'm going to make a side business out of that.
That's your side hustle.
Thanks for reminding, Javier. You can buy it off of eBay.
Okay.
At 10 times the price. So.
And what about your jacket? So I'm very jealous of the jacket.
We'll get you one, Amelia, but not just yet. So very cool.
One of the things that you'd said to me, if we're allowed to say this, that the ambition with Fanta is to make Halloween kind of like our Christmas.
I mean,
I love that. I think it's great. I mean,
What?
especially, but going back to the data around Gen Z saying that actually they prefer Halloween to Christmas. Like Christmas can be, I mean, I love my family, but you know, Halloween is super fun. You know,
Yeah.
if you're an 18-year-old, you kind of go, well, you know, Christmas is lovely. It's lovely to see the parents, the grandparents, but Halloween is, I mean, that's the fun festival.
I mean, what I said, Javier, was what Christmas is to Coke. Hopefully one day we can make Halloween to Fanta.
I have no doubt we will make it. And to your previous point of truly global, I was last week visiting Poland and Estonia.
Right.
The packaging is already on the shelves in Tallinn,
Amazing.
in the capital of Estonia.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So that's something really then that, you know, these brands can deliver. And you asked about the response. We've seen, you know, in traditional PR, we've seen a huge response. But I talked about the Bumble profile. We're seeing people post about Beetlejuice and Fanta online. Javier mentioned the eBay sale. So I saw eBay in the US and I saw eBay here in the UK. So in the US, it's for $50, Javier. Here, I think it's for 20 pounds. So I don't know if these guys are exchanging notes or it's the same people doing the selling, but that sounds like about the right price for a can of limited edition Fanta.
And I guess it's interesting, the idea that maybe, you know, we talked at the beginning about what's changed and what's stayed the same. I sort of reflecting, actually, this conversation's made me think that maybe when I started in my career, the idea of doing something like Fanta with Beetlejuice would have felt a bit transactional.
Right.
Whereas actually, I think what has changed is the understanding that both sides give value.
Yeah.
And that actually it feels, you know, if that feels quite different.
I love that. I was going to move the question to you, Javier, because, you know, you mentioned the why of marketing is to create value. What have you heard from, you know, your different markets and market visits about the Fanta Beetlejuice from your customers, from the sales guys?
You feel the excitement. You know, the idea of having something that is relevant, that's going to move people, minds, hearts, and wallets.
Right.
And that was something customers, retailers, they love. Of course, we also love that. But as to your point, it's not only about the short-term transaction that we need and we want,
Yeah.
but it's also about reinforcing the values of the brand and the benefits the brand can deliver, the emotional benefits of the brand. And also, you know, from the initial reaction, sharing some numbers, the PR results, 3 billion people reach globally.
Wow.
with our press releases and announcements. Featured on People magazine, more than 400 reviews with amazing comments. So we know we have something in our hands that's going to be epic, and it's going to be the next stage in driving experiences, not only for Fanta brand, but for our brands in the Coca-Cola system.
Isn't that interesting? Because I guess there's something, Javier, that you've just made me think, which is the experience is really, it's about kind of living culture, and that sense of brands being active participants and populating culture, as opposed to just kind of sitting on the sidelines. And I think that, to me, is why I think this is going to be such a big success, because it's locating the brand right in the heart of popular culture.
I suspect we'll be seeing a lot of more black and white jackets as Halloween
I suspect we will.
Excellent. So with that, you know, I think we can move to the closing section of the podcast, Javier. I like to ask one general question. You know, we have a lot of marketeers, advertisers, creatives, strategists listening into this. You know, what would be your one big advice, Javier? You know, it can be about career, it can be about the profession, it can be about life in general.
Ibrahim,
what would you say?
I'm not old enough to be going there giving advice to people. I'm still young, so I prefer to give bad example than good advice. But I can share with you what worked for me, and then people can decide if they want to use that or not. I would say two things. One is, as a marketing person, I believe that the moment you start thinking that you are great, that's the moment you start declining. So I prefer to think that there's always a way of doing better, and that connects with being humble, being curious, learning. Keep doing that, and I really believe that you can reach whatever you want if you keep that attitude. And the second thing is, we sell great beverage brands. We need to have fun. Please take your job seriously, but don't take yourself too seriously.
Right.
Have fun, right? We are selling great beverage brands, so we should have fun in what we do.
I love that, Javier, because, you said humility and curiosity upfront. And I think the last piece that you said is also very important. Like, we do take our job seriously, but let's not take ourselves so seriously, These are great brands. They're soft drinks, and I think we're allowed to have a little bit of fun while we're marketing them. Any thoughts from you?
It would really build on that. It's very similar, but I think it is a plea, a kind of a hope, which is we all spend so much time thinking about our jobs, doing our jobs, that actually sometimes you need to kind of consciously step out and spend time, to your point, with people outside our ecosystem and real people, and that sense of really, really listening and really watching and really being alert to the clues that culture gives you. Because otherwise we can all be in danger of kind of, whether it's groupthink or group here, you've got to kind of disrupt your own habits of comfort, I think. And that can be really difficult sometimes. So I think sometimes you have to kind of make those deliberate excursions back into real life to realize really what's going on.
Yeah, we had a couple of great examples from Javier, going back to be a student. I mean,
oh my
Javier,
goodness,
I don't know
absolutely.
if I could do that, to be honest, sit in a classroom setting again, but, it's inspiring.
What do you do?
Me?
Yeah.
I try. I spend a bit of time on different social media platforms. Like TikTok, you would imagine that I would get it. I don't. It really flies over my head. But I have 2 young daughters, and they're already on TikTok. And I observe how they behave. The other day, I was amazed. There's a brand, I'll take the name. There's a brand in the US which is trending very heavily called Crumble Cookies. Javier, Crumble Cookies. And it's trending on TikTok right now. And I went to get some cookies for my daughters, and there were like these...
So they'd said to you, Dad, go and get us cookies.
100%.
Okay.
And so I went to get cookies, and there's this group of teenage girls. They buy a box of cookies. What's the first thing that they do? They take a picture and they post it to Instagram. Then they open the box and then they eat it. Right? Like it's a completely different world that we're living in. And for these teenagers, yes, it is these small pleasures, but there's also the tribal aspect, and there's the social aspect, and there's the validation aspect. And when I see that, it's just phenomenal.
So my 2 boys won't buy anything unless they've seen it on TikTok. So whether it's hair care products, whether it's shoes, whether it's boxer shorts, literally, and it's kind of that sense of they don't want to get it wrong.
Right.
And so they love exploring and they love brands, but equally there's a kind of safe exploration,
right.
and TikTok kind of gives it to them. But I was reading today, it's super funny. Apparently there's a huge shortage of cucumbers, because there's a whole thing on TikTok at the moment with a cucumber influencer and these incredible kind of cucumber salads. And apparently Iceland, which produces lots and lots of cucumbers, have run out of cucumbers.
Incredible.
Never in their history have they run out of cucumbers.
That's incredible. So I think what Javier said is spot on. It's like you need to talk and listen to younger people. It's really that simple. What are they doing? What interests them? Many times we are sitting in, our boardrooms discussing marketing and experiences and creativity, and we have no way of judging what will actually work or not.
No, but we have to. So... But you kind of have to call it as well, which is, when we put ideas there, genuinely are these ideas that are going to catch fire. And then I think, we should challenge ourselves, which is, none of us are Gen Z. Like we're not the target audience. And how can we think differently about product co-creation? How can we think differently about real kind of audience insight? Because it doesn't come always from kind of big data sources. It comes from
armchair thinking,
thinking, but it comes from the anecdotes around the cookies or the cucumbers or the high smile
or the
toothpaste.
family trip and ChatGPT.
ChatGPT on a road
story.
trip. That's where the kind of breakthroughs are going to come from.
Super.
And to your point, you need to remain with open mind and open ears and open eyes.
Yeah.
That's the trick.
Exactly. Well, Javier, Amelia, thank you so much for joining. We've covered, Javier, obviously your journey. You look very young, Javier, so it's more the experience that I'm talking about. Thank you for sharing your experience as well. I think humility, curiosity, learning, that's a way to stay relevant and up to date with the changing context. Fingers crossed, hopefully Fanta, Beetlejuice does really, really well. Thank you both for joining. It was a wonderful conversation. I learned a lot, took away some wonderful quotes, and hopefully so did the audiences.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.